Welcome to Survive in Advance on the Grueling True Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster. And right now, I want to apologize because I'm going to introduce my co-host, former 1981 national champion, and currently he's a smartass, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Mike, let me tell you something right now. You are never a former champion. You are just a champion.
Man,
there's no former involved in this.
Once you are when it's 40
you are
years
always
ago.
A champion. I don't care. I'm still
90% of the people alive weren't even alive when you won.
That's fine. I'm still a champion. I'm not a former champion.
You're
I'm a
former
champion.
champion because the current champions are the Villanova Wildcats.
Brian, how you doing today, buddy?
And, of course, we have Brian Rauf, who's not going to be introduced properly because Risley's he's just a moron. But we got Brian Rauf from Fansided and Busting Brackets. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing excellent. Happy to be on.
Yeah, we'll see how you feel
Brian,
about that after
Brian. Be careful with Mike. He's having a weird week.
Are you going to go ahead and
careful?
You want to go ahead and ask the first
I have
question?
questions. I have questions.
Well, ask the questions.
I'm going to. Okay, I'm looking right now at the college basketball news. Where do you want to start, Brian? I mean, rankings.
You're supposed to ask the questions,
watch.
Risley. Jeez.
Bubble watch.
I'll tell you, I should never let Risley start the show. Because the first thing you don't ask the guest is, what do you want to talk about first, Brian?
Well, they're already talking about bubble watch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who's trending?
It's
Who's on the bubble
season.
right now? Let's just start there.
Everybody.
Who's on the bubble?
You're on the bubble
Everybody.
right now.
No, Duke's not on the bubble, Brian. Don't be an idiot.
I'm joking.
Virginia's not on the bubble. Tennessee's not on the bubble. Kentucky's not on the bubble.
All right, Risley. Nothing like beating a dead horse is what you're best at. Go ahead, Brian.
The bubble's going to be interesting this year because it's weaker than a lot of past years. So we're going to see some teams that maybe get in this year that would not get in other years. Like Florida is still on the bubble. I think they're clearly out right now, but a lot of people still have them on the bubble. NC State has been on the bubble with their recent losing streak and that jet of a performance they put up Saturday against Virginia Tech. There's a lot of mid-majors on the bubble as well. Obviously, Buffalo is in as an at-large. Gonzaga's in as an at-large. Nevada's in as an at-large. But Lipscomb is a team that the metrics really like. They rank, I think, in the top 20 or 25 in net rankings and are going to have a really good case for an at-large bid should they lose their conference tournament and be in the bubble conversation. Even some SoCon teams like Wofford and UNC Greensboro have made their way kind of into that bubble conversation just because of how weak it is this year. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch over the next month.
All right. After what happened last week, is Indiana a bubble team, or are they in the tournament as of this point?
That losing streak put them on the bubble, and it is going to take more than one win to get them off of it. But that win certainly, if you had any questions about where they were, that win certainly put them on the right side. I think they're feeling pretty good about themselves right now. And
there's only 6 teams in the country that have 3 quad-1 wins. Indiana's one of them. They're a bubble team.
Who cares?
Obviously,
they're 13-9, Steve. They're a bubble team. 13-9 is a bubble team. Am I right, Brian?
Yes, those wins put them on the right side of the bubble and may get them out of a first 4 game right now. But yeah, when you lose 7 in a row like they did and lose at Rutgers and everything that goes along with that, you're going to find yourself in the bubble conversation.
And let me ask this. Those quadrant 1 wins, since they happened in November, do they have November and early December, do they have less meaning when you get to March, especially if a Marquette and Louisville are top 10 teams?
Or let me answer that before Brian does. They have more weight now because Marquette and Louisville have both elevated themselves in the rankings.
Yeah, so it's a lot more important to beat them when they suck than it is to beat them when they're good.
Mike, it doesn't.
It does
Brian,
matter.
Am I right or wrong, Brian? Shut up, Mike. Brian, am I right or wrong?
It matters when you're filling out your bracket in terms of how good you think the team is and how far you think they'll go. But in terms of the selection committee, they're supposed to judge all of those wins the same.
Yeah, but they don't.
Right, Mike.
They'll take into account how a team was playing at a time when it comes to seeding. But a quadrant one win is going to be a quadrant one win whether you got it in March or got it in November.
Thank you.
So I was right.
Idiot.
You're an idiot.
No, I was right. You were wrong.
No, you weren't. You're stupid. Marquette wasn't even ranked when Indiana beat him. And if Marquette played Indiana right now or Louisville played Indiana right now, Indiana would lose by 20.
That maybe, but Indiana gets credit now they beat a quadrant one team then.
Yeah, but it's still stupid. No, I'm still right. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so let's just cut to the chase now. As we start to get into the second half of tournament play and league play, you still think 9 to 10 teams out of the Big Ten, or are we being overzealous here on that now?
I think we're probably a realistic number to shoot for, especially with Nebraska kind of toiling down in that bubble conversation as well. Indiana, obviously, I had out before that win against Michigan State. I think that put them well on the right side, like we talked about out of those first 4 games. I think there's an off chance, depending on kind of how Nebraska does down the stretch here, for them to get 9 teams in. But I think 8's a more realistic number to shoot for.
Okay. Any disappointments in the Big Ten? I mean, obviously Nebraska, Indiana are probably on the lower end of the food
I think
chain.
Michigan's a disappointment right now.
Oh, I think Michigan. Well, Brian, Michigan State, are they disappointments all of a sudden now? The teams that
Michigan
or
is a
is it a case?
disappointment.
Is it a case of just the Big Ten is so balanced?
Are you going to let Brian answer?
Crap out of each other. Yeah, after I finish my question.
Jesus.
There's a
shut up.
Don't tell Brian to shut up. He's the one answering your question.
No, you.
Go ahead, Brian.
You Goodpaster.
God, you're an idiot. Go ahead.
To me, there's a difference between disappointing and a disappointment. I think in terms of disappointments, Indiana has been a disappointment, and Nebraska has been disappointment. Michigan has been disappointing over the past couple weeks. They've lost 2 of their last 5 games, and their offense has completely regressed from where they were at earlier on in the year. They really rely on Bosdakis and Charles Matthews and Jordan Poole to produce most of their offense and give them sort of an added dimension on the wing with all the shooting abilities. And all 3 of them are going through really poor shooting clumps right now and just aren't producing at the clip they normally are at, anywhere near really the clip they normally produce at. And that's played a real factor in why Michigan struggled of late. I don't know. I assume Michigan will be able to pull out of that because of how good of a coach Beeline is and how good those players are. But certainly the way they're playing now is not like the team they were maybe a month or 2 ago.
So, Brian, is the Big Ten just too balanced for its own good? They can't put a dominant team on the map. They don't have a dominant team on the map. They're all, like I said, Purdue's rising. Maryland's, up and down a little bit, more up and down, but they're there. You got Michigan kind of dropping. Michigan State gets beat by Indiana at home in a crucial win.
Yeah.
Is that league too balanced for its own good? Ohio State falling off the face of the earth.
Oh boy, this is the question that never ends.
The depth in the conference, I think, has certainly played a role in it. The conference sort of cannibalizing itself. We've talked about that middle tier teams really from 3 through 10 or 11 in that conference that are all really equal, and just kind of them flip-flopping in the standings based on who they've played that week and so on and so forth. That group has cannibalized itself and kept somebody from really emerging, although Purdue has sort of broken through that barrier and is now tied for first in Michigan State. So that would be the thing more than anything. It's just the balance between those teams. And then obviously Michigan not playing as well, Michigan State dealing with the Joshua Langford injury, and Purdue suddenly catching fire. So to answer your question, yes, but we knew this was going to be the case all along.
Okay. Mike, you have an intelligent question you want to ask? Because I'm kind of dominating.
Because you don't have any? Yeah, I do.
No, I do. I have another question.
You
I have a bunch
you
more
don't have
questions.
any intelligent questions. You just don't.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
My question would be this.
Brian.
Oh,
Brian.
no, I'm going to ask
Painter,
a question.
Brian, is Matt Painter a good basketball coach?
Obviously.
Or is he just a... I mean, really, because he's not won. It's not done tournament play well.
Question.
They don't win in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, he's not a tournament coach, in my opinion.
You
but
ask
he
if he was
seems to be able to get his teams going through the tournament. Is Matt Painter an upper echelon basketball coach or somebody who's got a good situation at playing in the Big Ten at Purdue, which is the second greatest university in the state of Indiana?
He's a good basketball coach, but he's not a great basketball coach. He's someone who, like you mentioned, is going to produce and get the most out of his teams more often than not, and usually win the 20-25 win range every year, which is solid. And if you're Purdue, it's hard to, or really anybody, you're going to live with that kind of success, especially last year when you're coming off of a two seed and maybe that run is different if Isaac Haas doesn't get hurt. But he's a good coach, not a great coach. We talk about this a lot in the NFL with quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins and Alex Smith, guys who are good quarterbacks and they're starters, but probably can't get you to that next level and be a real Super Bowl contender. Matt Painter's kind of like that.
Yeah, don't ask Mike his opinion of Sean McVay because you won't like what he has to say. Mike, you have an intelligent question to ask.
Know what
go ahead.
Brian says. You haven't asked an intelligent question yet. I might as well take a stab at it. All right, we look at the SEC. Yeah, Kentucky, Tennessee, LSU. I'll ask Steve this first to see if I can get an intelligent answer. Do you think LSU is a possible Final Four team, Steve?
No, absolutely not.
So you're an idiot. Brian, what do you think?
I love this LSU team, and I would have felt super confident about them being my kind of sleeper pick had they not lost to Arkansas over the weekend. I think that kind of took a lot of the wind out of my sails. But they have everything that at least I look for in a team. They're other than having the experience, because they are a really young team, but they're as talented as anybody. They have mismatch problems at multiple positions. They're very athletic. They're long. They can shoot. They play hard. The problem, like with any young team, most of the guys that play for them are freshmen and sophomores, is inconsistency, particularly on the defensive end. And then sometimes they get into stretches where they don't take good shots. In the NCAA tournament, all of those things could be factors, but I think with their talent level and athleticism and the fight they've shown in a lot of these games, and the way they've grown this season, and I anticipate them growing throughout the final month before we get into March, I really, really like what I'm seeing from them.
Huh. And Steve doesn't.
No, and here's my theory on that, Mike.
Give me your theory on that, Steve.
Every day that you move toward March in the selection Sunday, coaching becomes more relevant and more important in this game. And I just think that you're going to see the teams with great coaches who are proven coaches rise to the top. It's why Belichick won the Super Bowl again. He outsmarted McVay. He outcoached McVay. It happens in every sport. I know I'm using football as the example here, but it plays true everywhere. You will eventually find, in the end, that what will kill LSU will be their coaching. Not that their coach is not a great coach. He's an experienced coach.
Let me ask you a question, okay? Just generally.
Yeah.
Since you are a basketball expert, I usually ask stupid questions. Who's the coach for LSU?
I don't know.
Okay. So
well, I can tell you what.
Basically,
if I don't know,
judgment.
You know what?
No, hold on.
If
you don't, I know what you're going to say. If I don't know the answer, I'm just going to make it up.
What's that tell you right now? If I don't know, if I don't know the answer to that question,
I don't think you know who the coach for most teams are, Steve.
I know the ones that are going to be in the Final Four.
Really?
Or most likely to be there.
Most likely. Well, which is it? You know, or you're most likely to?
Well, nothing is certain in life except death and taxes. So we know that.
Okay. Just so you know, Will Wade's the coach, and it's his first year at LSU.
Yeah, right. So like I said, he's not seasoned. He's got to pay his dues.
Wait a second, he's not seasoned. So do you think that it hurts him? Hold on, Brian. Play along.
Okay.
Do you think it hurts him that he's never coached in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, and how many championship
Really?
rings do you have, Mike?
This is the thing, Steve. He directed VCU to a 51-20 record and 2 NCAA tournament appearances in the last 2 years. They won a tournament game in 2016, upsetting Oregon State.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Well, what's really cool is
they got an NCAA
tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Uh-huh. Who's the idiot now, Brian? Just say it. Say it. Just say it.
All I will say, Steve, is that Will Wade is one of the best young coaches in the country, and I think you'll probably know who he is by the time March is over.
You agree? Oh, hell.
Mike, I will bet you $1 right now that LSU is not in the Final Four. I'll bet you they're not in the Final 8. I'll bet you they're not in the Sweet 16. I'll bet you $1 right now LSU does not make the Sweet 16.
Oh,
you want to bet?
Man. Sure. I'll take that bet.
I'll accept that.
We both accepted it. Now you're going to be out $2.
$2. All right, fine. All right.
Oh, man.
Mike, what else you want to talk about the SEC? Kentucky.
I just want to keep talking about LSU right now.
I'm done with LSU. You know what? All I remember about LSU was 1981 Tiger Bait. Dale Brown. Night threw one of their fans in a trash can as we were walking through the hotel in Cherry Hills, New Jersey.
Wait a second.
We beat them like 65-0 or something like that.
Really?
I don't know what it was. It was bad.
It was bad?
So I have no big love affair with LSU. I don't care. They're irrelevant to me.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but
it means they're not a basketball school. They're not going to be relevant in tournament time.
Okay. Because actually they were beating you by 3 at halftime, so they were fairly relevant. At least
then we had to play the second half, didn't we? And they lost by 20-something, whatever the score was.
We had to play the second half. You played 10 minutes.
They shat their pants.
Over 2. You made a free throw. So Steve actually had a uno is what we call it for Steve. He scored a point and had an assist.
There you go.
There you go. And the fact is, Mike, I played.
You know what? The fact is this, Risley. I was 13 years old at the time, and you only scored 1 more point than I did. Come on, Steve. That was funny.
Mike. Touche, Mike. That was funny. Well played.
All right.
Kentucky. Brian, Kentucky. Are they the real deal now? Is Kentucky the real deal?
Obviously, they're the real deal.
Yes. I don't know. I'm going to stop short of saying that I think they're a Final Four team. I don't know if they're a Final Four caliber team. I don't know if they're necessarily a national championship caliber team. They're really, really good. They've gotten a lot better since they made those lineup changes that we've talked about the past couple of weeks. They're excellent defensively. They've certainly proven themselves against highly ranked teams, both on the road and at home, over the past month or so. I still have some concerns offensively, though, with them. They've won a lot of these games. They got on the stretch because of their defense being so great, and then getting enough offense from guys like Keldon Johnson and Tyler Herro and B.J. Washington late in games down the stretch, making the plays they need to make. Talent-wise, I mean, they check all the boxes in that regard, but just what I see from them offensively, I don't trust that offense to carry them to 6 straight wins.
All right, when you look at Tennessee,
well, no, wait. Let me say. Hang on, Brian. Hang on, Mike.
My name's Mike.
Sit back. Mike. Yeah.
And let you screw it up. Maybe Brian can teach you who the coaches for each team are.
Okay, that's great. Mike, Brian.
I'm in your head, Risley.
Now you got me frazzled. Now I'm frazzled. Tennessee or Kentucky? Who wins the SEC?
I've said this is tough for me, simply because schedule-wise, Tennessee's schedule gets really, really tough down the stretch. Like, so far this year, outside of the games they played in the preseason NIT or the NIT season tip-off, and then when they beat Gonzaga, they haven't necessarily been tested against really top-end teams. And towards the end of the year, I think they end up playing most of their games from, I think, next week on against ranked teams or teams like Auburn that are kind of like on the border there of being ranked and not ranked. So I don't know if they're going to be able to necessarily win enough games like that to win, although I think they're the best team in the SEC right now. I think also looking at the schedule, LSU only has one of those games outside of the game they play against Tennessee. They play Kentucky and Tennessee, and that's it in terms of who LSU plays. I've said to start of the year and then through this year too, the schedule sets up really well for LSU to claim a share of the title. I think it'll be co-champions with LSU and either Tennessee or Kentucky. Right now, I would lean Tennessee sharing that with LSU simply because I think they're the better team. But I don't know if they can go on the road and win the games that Kentucky has won over the past couple weeks. So that'll be interesting to see. But I would go with LSU and Tennessee splitting it right now.
Mike?
Mike, what? You said for me to sit back and listen.
All right.
So.
How is okay, great. So I got a million questions. I mean, I'll keep going. I love college basketball. Football's over.
You love it so much you don't even know who coaches the teams.
I don't care who the LSU coach is. It's not relevant.
It is relevant.
Not yet.
How's Crean doing at Georgia? What's the take on Crean at Georgia?
He's doing well. It's it's going to be a long process and take probably 3 or 4 years before they're relevant nationally, but they're making strides and are much more competitive than they were certainly last year, and I think more competitive than a lot of people thought they were going to be right away.
Okay. Mike, you have anything else you want to cover about the SEC?
No, let's go to the ACC because that was interesting.
Yeah, okay, so
who?
Yeah, here's my
question.
question.
Go ahead, ask
Who's
your question, Steve. I don't want to interrupt you.
Don't. Brian, who's the best team in the ACC right now?
Duke.
I still go with Duke. I think we'll find out this weekend.
Based on?
Duke and Virginia play. But I think Duke is just based on the amount of talent they have and the fact that they're continuing to grow together and fix some of the problems that they had earlier in the season with regards to offensive execution and finding ways to produce points when they're kind of forced to execute and play at a slower pace.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm going to defer to you for a while to talk because I'm watching Lindsey Vonn make her last run in downhill skiing.
I thought you said
she just crashed big time.
Yeah,
like she skied down the hill though.
That was hours
I know.
ago.
Well, I'm in LA. We get everything 3 hours.
All right,
late,
are you going to continue to talk about something nobody
now.
cares about? All right, my question.
Oh, you don't care about Lindsey Vonn?
I could care less. I couldn't care less. How about that? What
All
do
right.
I care? Doesn't
Go
she
ahead,
ski
Mike.
or something?
Yeah, she skis.
Okay. Her main claim to fame is she slept with Tiger Woods. Good for her.
That's
All
not her
right,
main claim.
so
My
what?
Goodpaster.
That's what you
How
told me.
despicable of a
You
human
told me
being
that
are you?
today, a few hours ago.
I told you that off the air.
Oh, okay. You still said it to me, so
Which
how you
makes
get
a
mad at
difference.
me? It was just true. All right, you don't want to
Go
look
ahead,
at
Mike.
Kardashians. They would
ACC.
never do
Stay with the
anything like
ACC.
that. All right, Louisville. Chris Mack, I know you talked about this team a couple weeks ago. You thought they'd make the tournament, but probably wouldn't be able to win too many games. Has that opinion changed yet? Because the thing I noticed watching against Virginia Tech is I think this may be the most improved team in the country, and offensively, they're a lot better than they were a month ago.
Oh my! What Mac has done with them from November till now has been as impressive as anything anybody has done in the sport this year. I still think there's kind of that hard cap on how far they can go in the tournament. They can probably make the Sweet 16 with the group they have and the way they're playing right now. But I just don't think they have the top-end guys to go further than that and beat the 1 and 2 and 3 seeds they probably end up playing at that point. But that shouldn't take away from the job that Mac has done and how good this team is playing right now. They're getting the most and then some probably of talent and the personnel they have, and it's been they're a lot of fun to watch.
All right, and then, of course, we had North Carolina State. They had Steve Risley night where they lost 47-24, and all 5 guys that played acted like they were Steve Risley. They only put up 24 points, but since it was Steve Risley night, do you think maybe they scored more than what could have been expected?
It was That game was
roll with it, Brian. Just roll with it.
No,
you just
Brian.
gotta go with it.
Oh, yeah.
That game was brutal. I did
go with it. Go with it.
Are you going to let him answer?
I saw something Sunday where 68 individual players ended up scoring more points than NC State did as a team just in the games on Saturday.
Yeah, it was kind of like watching a high school girls basketball tournament game, 47.
There you go again, ripping on girls basketball again.
Jeez.
Stop it, Mike.
It's true.
Being so judgmental.
God.
Jiminy Christmas.
You just said Jiminy
nothing wrong
Christmas.
with girls basketball.
There's nothing wrong with girls basketball. If you like layups.
The thing about the game, too, is it wasn't like NC State was a bad offensive team or was getting a ton of really poor shots. They were just missing everything. Even things that they normally make and open shots. It was just one of those games where nothing went right for them.
All right,
hey, Brian, I got a question for you. I got a question for Brian.
Yeah,
tying right into this, because this kind of plays into this. I've noticed kind of generally scoring to be lower in college basketball this year than normal, than what we're used to seeing. Is defense becoming more of a prominent factor in college basketball again all of a sudden? I mean, it seems to me that we're seeing lower scores.
That was so eloquently put.
Is that because of good defense, or what's your opinion, Brian, on that? The scores are the scores lower in general, and is it because of better defensive effort on basketball teams?
I think that they might be down overall, and I think that probably has more to do with the style of play that people are playing, more so than any real defensive upgrade across the country. There are very few teams that play that up and down run and gun style anymore. I mean, Duke's using it with the athletes that they have, wanting to get up and down. UNC always does with the way where Williams wants to play, and there are a couple of mid majors like Iona and Ryder like to get up and down the court and shoot a bunch of threes and just kind of play that 7 seconds or less kind of offense. But there aren't a ton of them out there, and that's probably why we're seeing that. I mean, even teams like Kentucky, who in the past have had a lot of athletes and wanted to go down the court, are playing at a slower pace, more methodical, just because of the way their team's constructed. So I think it has more to do with pace of play than anything else.
All right, my question is the AAC, which we haven't really talked about this year. Is that an underrated league? Because you got Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, Temple. I think Memphis is a solid team. How many bids could they get? I assume Houston and UC are in. What about teams like Central Florida and Temple?
Well, I think they're probably looking at 3. I think Houston's a team that a lot of people need to start paying attention to because they're going to be a dangerous team in March and potentially a second weekend team. Cincinnati is solid again and are going to get an at-large bid for sure. I still don't trust them in anything resembling a big game because their offense is terrible once again.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
ever
a pain.
since Nicky Van Exel graduated.
And then I think they get one more, whether that's Temple or UCF.
All right.
And I think that'll depend. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I've been around Risley.
You did.
It just happens. What about the
A10? All right. I don't think anybody cares.
Go ahead. Ask about the A10, Steve. Who's in the A10,
I want to know.
Steve?
I want to know what's going on out west. I mean, is there
Nobody
even
cares. The
basketball?
A10 is better than the Pac-12.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there even basketball west of the Mississippi anymore, Brian? I'm really seriously. The Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever the hell it is, I don't even know what it is anymore. They all kind of suck. Is there anybody good out here that can even be a factor in the tournament?
Washington is, and Washington is taking advantage of the down year in the Pac-12. They're in the middle of kind of their big stretch because this past week they beat both USC and UCLA, who, as we've talked about plenty of times on here, have been up and down all year, but are talented teams. So they won both of those games, but they won them at home. And now this week they're going on the road and playing the Arizona schools. And so after this week, we'll have a better idea of just exactly how good Washington is. But Washington's the only team in our conference that hasn't had a bad loss, didn't suffer one in non-conference play. They just didn't pick up any marquee wins. It now has a loss in conference play. They've got to take care of business. They have the most experienced team in the country. They returned the most minutes of anybody else in the country from last year. And they're big, and they play that 2-3 zone like Syracuse does. Mike Hopkins, obviously the head coach who came over from Syracuse. They're a team that, again, isn't going to make a super long run in the tournament, but is certainly good enough to win a game, depending on matchups, win a second game, simply because of their experience.
Again, I go back to anybody that can compete on east of the Mississippi out there. I mean, can Washington compete east of the Mississippi?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't think wouldn't be, winning a conference and being undefeated, I don't think, in anywhere else. But they're a good enough team. I think I had them 18th this week in my top 25. They're a good enough team that maybe doesn't get as much credit or notoriety as they should because of how bad the Pac-12 is.
All right, let's talk about what I think is probably the most fun conference in the United States to watch, and that's the Big East. I think these guys are just brutal. They play my kind of basketball. They beat the crap out of each other.
Don't. Most of them can shoot.
Okay, all right. Who's the best team in the Big East now, Brian?
I still think it's Marquette. We've talked Villanova and how good they are and how good the coach Jay Wright is. And all of that's certainly there, and I think Villanova is going to finish second and be a high seed in the NCAA tournament. But Marquette, I don't think it's enough credit for how good they are as well. Marcus Howard, obviously, is one of the best scorers in the country, and he's capable of going off for 30 or 40 or 50 any given night. But they have two players next to him, the Hauser brothers, who are sort of mismatches at the forward position, so you can shoot the three, rebound the ball well inside. And then Theo John on the inside, their big guy, is really good around the rim, good rebounder, and is leading. I think he's the Big East leader in block shots, if I'm not mistaken. So they're more than just Howard, and they're up in the top 10 now, I believe. And it's not a joke. It's not a fluke. And I think we'll see that this weekend when they play Villanova.
Yeah, they're very good on defense too. Where's the Villanova game at?
I believe this one is in Milwaukee.
Okay, now with the Big East, Villanova, Marquette are in. Do you think anybody else gets in? You got Georgetown at 14-8, Creighton 13-9, St. John's 16-6, but I think that's a made-up record.
I think they'll definitely get, I think, at least two more teams in. I think the conference is too balanced not to. Before the season started, I said I expected 5 from the Big East to get in. I think that would be, if they got 5 in, I think the Big East would be ecstatic about that. I would look at 4 right now, but 5 is a real possibility, especially if St. John's can sort of get things turned around here.
All right, let's go to the Big 12, because the thing that's interesting here is when I look at the standings, Kansas is not on top now. You've got Kansas State, Baylor, Iowa State all with them, Texas Tech within shouting distance. Who do you like here?
I've said before that I think Kansas is the third best team in the conference, and I still believe that. But I've been reluctant to pick against them in the Big 12 because of how big their home court advantage is and the fact that plays. We've seen it every year. That has essentially carried them to this 14 consecutive years winning the conference, either shared or outright. We'll find out tonight when they play Kansas State how real those chances are. And I believe the game's in Manhattan at Kansas State, and Kansas is 1-5 in true road games this year, which doesn't bode well for them at all. If they lose that game, I would look at probably Kansas State or Iowa State end up winning the Big 12. If they win, I think it's inevitable that Kansas wins. Baylor has played really well, and I think Scott Drew, I think right now he's my national coach of the year, up there with Chris Matt, just the job he's done with especially the turnaround mid-season with what Baylor's been able to do. But I don't know if they can necessarily compete with those 3 teams. So if Kansas wins tonight, I would still say Kansas. But if they lose, I think we're going to see someone else like Kansas State or Iowa State win it.
And how many bids do you think they get? Because the thing that's interesting to me is you got TCU sitting here at 15-6, Oklahoma at 15-8. Do those have what kind of chances do they have for an at-large?
Well, I've seen a lot of people think they'll end up getting 8 teams in. So 80% of the conference, with Oklahoma State and West Virginia being the only 2 that don't make it. I think Oklahoma is in serious jeopardy of being left out, and I think Texas was in serious jeopardy until they beat Kansas.
But they're still 12-10. That's rough to justify, isn't it?
It is, but it's a weak bubble year, and we've seen them get in. I think last year they had 14 or 15 losses and still got in as a 10 seed just because of the wins over. They didn't beat Kansas last year, but wins over as many good teams as there are in the Big 12. The committee has given significant weight to those in past years. So I think Oklahoma's in trouble. I think Texas is in trouble. I think they'll probably end up with 7, but right now they're looking at 8 teams that would be in the field if the tournament started today.
All right, Steven.
Yeah, okay. Let me see. Is there any other conferences we need to talk about? Is there any
All right, how about
we missed
this?
Here
Brian, what about Northern Kentucky University in the horizon?
Got to win the conference tournament.
I know. That's very unfair, though.
Really seriously, you're going to talk about the Horizon League? There you
really?
go.
So we don't want to, even though that if they make the NCAA tournament, that gets us.
No, I don't want to talk about the Horizon League anymore. I want to talk about
All right,
LSU.
so make sure if you're out there, Alex Gray does an NKU weekly basketball show. Don't listen to it because it's irrelevant, Steve Risley said. Only listen to what Steve wants to talk about. Jesus.
We're going to make Alex Gray relevant because Alex and I are starting a NASCAR show.
Alex
this
is
week.
already relevant. We're trying to get you to Alex's level.
Okay, well, I don't see him talking to Brian.
Well, NKU's 18-6. And you know what?
All right, great.
With a little dial of a number, Alex could be talking to Brian. So go ahead.
All right, well, call him up.
You want to talk about the
Brian,
Ivy League?
No, I'll talk about the Ivy League. Here, some big games coming up today. Big basketball. MSU, Illinois playing. Mm-hmm. MSU's going to Illinois, I assume. 4 o'clock today or 7 o'clock in East Coast time. How does MSU respond? They've kind of had a couple down games now. I mean, what do they do here?
Yeah, I think this has potential for a trap game if they hadn't lost Indiana and if they hadn't lost Purdue before that. Izzo's not the kind of coach who loses 2 games in a row very often, and he's even more rare the kind of guy who loses 3 games in a row. He'll have them ready to go and focused against Illinois. Illinois plays that different style, that high-pressure defense that can give teams a lot of problems just because they don't see it very often. But Michigan State will be ready for it. I think they'll handle it.
And I'll tell you what, I've been there many times. Champaign-Urbana is a hellhole. Yeah. It's not a place you want to go play basketball at.
Yeah.
So if you're from Champaign-Urbana, I would like to say
they have a thing called
the
Assembly
thoughts
Hall.
of Steve Risley do not reflect
their dome is called Assembly
the
Hall
opinions
too.
of the Grilling
And they actually took a big concrete dome and dropped it in one piece on top of the bottom half of the cereal bowl, and it is just an atrocious place to play at. Yeah, Brian, is this just not a up to par MSU campaign this year? Are they a little substandard from what we expect out of Izzo and his crew?
I don't necessarily think so.
They're ranked number 10, right?
Yeah, I think up until I think a week and a half ago we were talking about them as I didn't think
Final Four team,
Final Four team. One of Izzo's better coaching jobs because Langford was out, and now that we know he's out for the whole rest of the year, I think it has reset expectations a little bit around this team, at least nationally. We know they're still a good team. We know Cassius Winston's a stud and going to be an All-American, but there's not a whole lot of consistent production elsewhere. They have a team full of good role players, but if you're going to make a long Final Four caliber run in March, you need more than just one guy in role players, really, unless that one guy is Steph Curry. And I think that the Indiana loss was a sobering reminder of that for Michigan State fans. They're still going to be solid. They're still going to take care of business and finish among the top teams in the Big Ten, make the second weekend in the NCAA tournament probably, but they're not that contender or Final Four team that people thought they were a couple weeks ago.
All right. Any concern with Duke BC today? That's on 7 o'clock on ESPN. Any concern with that game at all? Duke got this under control. Is that Duke?
Not at Duke. No, that Kai Bowman, Boston College's point guard, is one of the better players in the country that nobody really talks about. But no, the Boston College doesn't have anywhere near enough.
All right, how about this?
All right, Kentucky, South Carolina.
Okay.
South Carolina. I'm going to go through the game.
I had other questions. Well, you do whatever the hell you
want.
want.
Just hang on. Let me go through the games.
I don't know why
you
start going to games when I'm not done asking questions.
Well, because I'm asking about the games, right? UK, South Carolina. South Carolina's kind of been seemingly somewhat of a – you see them in the news like they're kind of like nobody wants to kind of play them, although they're not really a threat. Kentucky got any problems here? Game's at Rupp, I assume.
Yeah, it's in Lexington. If the game was in Columbia, there would be some concerns for Kentucky. South Carolina's been a very good team at home this year, and the style of play, as you mentioned, with that Frank Martin defense, nobody wants to go up against that.
Yeah.
And
right.
They've been South Carolina has been a different team on the road, just really, really poor. Essentially, they've been the team that they were expected to be whenever they go on the road, and they've suddenly become this really not really good team, but a quality team nobody wants to face when they play at home. So because this game's on the road, they may give Kentucky some problems early with that defense, but Kentucky's going to win pretty easily.
All right. Michigan's got to go to Rutgers. I mean, we saw Rutgers. It seems to me what I saw about Rutgers, and I've only seen them play Indiana, and I watched that game. They play very free basketball. They play like they don't care to win or lose. They just seem like a team that's having a lot of fun playing the game, and they kind of are coached that way. Is this a threat to Michigan? They got to go there. I mean, they're on a high. They just beat Indiana, which is not necessarily
They got killed their last game.
Okay, but they beat Indiana. It's kind of a signature win when you beat Indiana, regardless of what Indiana's record is. So if you beat something that says Indiana on it, is this something Michigan needs to be aware of, or they go in there and just kind of clean house and get it done and stay on top of the Big Ten?
No, this will be, I think, one of those games that's really uncomfortable for Michigan fans, and one that kind of raises some eyebrows around the rest of the country, because Rutgers is they're no longer just
Mike.
What?
They're a pretty solid basketball team, especially at home. We saw them take Michigan State down to the wire. They've beaten some teams at home, including Indiana, like you mentioned. And the way Michigan's playing offensively right now doesn't necessarily inspire a lot of confidence. I think Michigan will eventually win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think, and a lot of Michigan fans will be comfortable with.
All right, FSU Syracuse. Anybody care?
That's going to be a game where
you ask about FSU Syracuse if anybody cares, but you acted like Michigan and Rutgers matters.
Yeah.
FSU and Syracuse are both teams that could win tournament games.
Mike, every team that plays in terms of a team that can win tournament games,
yeah,
even
both those
Baltimore
teams
College,
will be
Maryland.
in it. But
UMBC can win tournament games. We already proved that last year.
Won't.
So don't
You're
go
the same
there.
one that acts like Rutgers
Brian,
is on a roll.
Does anybody care about FSU Syracuse? Does anybody care?
Yes.
That's a great game.
That's a
okay. All right.
a big game
Let Brian finish.
in the mid-tier of the ACC. It's going to be a defensive game where the first of 60 or 65 wins, but it's going to be it'll be a fight. I think it'll be a fight between both teams. And yes, that's a game. That's a game that people on the East Coast care about. It's two upper tier teams in the upper half of the ACC. Both of them will be tournament teams, so it's a game people care about.
All right, UNC, NC State.
Well, that'll be
tobacco road at its finest.
That'll be an interesting game to see if NC State can score 25 points. It's just the way UNC's playing right now, and the game's in Chapel Hill, UNC is going to win this game pretty convincingly. NC State is not the team that scored 24 points over the weekend. I mean, they are, but that's not who they are. They like to get up and down, score a lot of points. They usually score in the 80s. They can get into the 90s. They like to do that. It's going to be an up and down game, but again, the way UNC is playing, and because they're at home, I see them winning this pretty convincingly.
St. John's Marquette, again, any problems there?
Some. It's always fun when Marcus Howard and Shamoy Ponds go up against each other. St. John's beat Marquette by 20 when they played at St. John's earlier this year. But I think it's a different story this time around with the way Marquette's playing, the fact that they're at home. Marquette wins this game by about 8 points.
Big game, Kentucky or Kansas and Kansas State. Is that the biggest game of the night?
Yeah, I think it has the most implications of any game tonight, and because it's at Kansas State and the way Kansas has played on the road, I know they just blew the doors off Texas Tech this weekend, but because of the way they play on the road, I would go with Kansas State to win tonight.
And then Tennessee, Missouri. Any concerns there at all for Tennessee?
No.
They're at home.
No. Tennessee will take care of business.
Yeah. Mike, I'm done with the games tonight. What do you want to talk about? I got other questions, but you go ahead.
What, Steve?
Oh.
I went to pee.
You have any other questions? You went to pee?
Yeah. I didn't
That's a
think
pisser.
you needed me. I don't have any questions.
Oh,
I didn't see any games that really interested me a whole lot this week.
Okay. All right.
Except for
Well, I'll
Florida
be
State,
watching Big Brother Celebrity
Yeah.
Edition. They're having a power veto vote tonight, and somebody's going to. I think Lindsay Lohan's mom maybe get whacked off tonight, which concerns me big time. Because I don't know if Lindsay Lohan can handle that. So, okay. Mike, I'm sorry, Mike. I know I love college basketball, so I'm done with football. So I'm off of football.
You
So,
don't love
Mike,
it
you have something
because
else you want to talk
you
about?
don't love it
Don't let me
because you
dominate
don't
the
ask a
conversation.
relevant question. I mean, a relevant question to me is
Anything you can pull up on Google.
anything I can pull up on Google. Yeah, because I don't know what's
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
That's why I asked
No.
somebody for 5 minutes about Michigan and freaking
No,
Syracuse.
Brian, we had this conversation last night with my wife. My wife, who's like the genealogist of the royal
Yeah.
family, and and my wife's
And they
cooking
asked me
dinner.
a question, and I knew
We're
the
having meatloaf.
answer, so of course I
And
Googled
he
it.
knew the answer as soon as Google came up, and he could give the lineage of the 8 wives of Henry VIII or 6 wives of Henry VIII. And he's like, it was like so Google oriented. He was pulling it up. He got Anne Boleyn, he got Jane Seymour,
But
he
those
got all
are
of them.
easy.
It's like he Googles everything. But he made himself sound like a genius. My wife was laughing at him behind her. Well, he's not. He can't see my wife. She's like, he's an idiot. That's why my wife was looking at me. She was writing down, Mike Goodpaster is an idiot because he doesn't know anything about royal family. But anyway, that's another point.
Actually, you'd have to be an idiot to be an American and know about royal families, because I think that's what our forefathers fought against.
I agree entirely.
But I noticed
you know
that because I read this stuff.
There,
I've read Henry VIII.
100%.
And the fact that you are an idiot is what makes this so funny.
No. Brian, what the hell?
I still have a
Their
question
coach is AD.
that I'm not allowed to
ruling
answer.
All right, okay. I want to ask about the ruling at Kansas regarding their player and their coach and everything.
You were
The
supposed to
Adidas
ask that at the start of
Mike,
the
you want to
show, I
ask a
thought.
question before we get to that? Because I think
go
that's
ahead,
going to be an
because it
involved
doesn't matter.
conversation.
I'm not even going to ask.
So
the
which
question
one do
now.
you
I
want
don't
to talk
even
about
care.
first?
I'd rather talk about Belmont
Go
and
ahead, Mike.
Lipscomb.
Ask your question first.
I'd rather talk about Belmont and Lipscomb. Can either
Okay,
one
go.
of them
Talk about
lose and still make the tournament? Lose in
Lipscomb
the
can.
tournament.
Lipscomb can. Belmont can't.
Why is that? Because Belmont beat Lipscomb at Lipscomb.
Lipscomb has a better overall resume when you look at the different metrics and everything that the committee looks at. Right now, if they got an at-large, Lipscomb would be probably on the 11 line. I was thinking if they got an at-large, they would be down, I think, around 13. They're a team that the metrics really like. And Belmont has that win over Lipscomb.
They beat them twice.
Don't necessarily have the metrics outside of those 2 wins. If it gets to a point where those metrics improve and Lipscomb maybe loses a game or 2 and it gets to a head-to-head matchup between those 2 kind of
but when you look at their
that's when those
schedules,
wins will come into play.
do you think there's that big of a difference? I mean, Lipscomb beat TCU. I mean, that's not an enormous win. They beat SMU, but that's not enormous. I mean, overall, they may have played a tougher schedule, but I don't think it's that tough enough schedule to overlook Belmont smacking them twice, including once at Lipscomb.
I agree with you, but from a metric standpoint, they're so much higher. And that's what the committee is going to look at when they're evaluating those 2.
So the committee doesn't care about which team's better. They just care about who has the better resume.
The head-to-head really only comes into play when they think they're close and are evaluating 2 teams against each other.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you think, Steve? I mean, Belmont beats Lipscomb twice, but Lipscomb would get in over them?
I tend to agree with Brian. I think, unfortunately, resumes overall, and I've been through, I lived in the corporate world for 25 years at Pfizer, and,
God, I know
unfortunately,
Pfizer has bearing on this.
No, it Christmas.
Well,
it's the mentality.
When you look at Belmont and
you judge somebody by a resume, because when you don't know the people, you don't see them, you don't interact with them, you judge them by their resume. And while there are people, like I'll tell you what, I applied 3 years in a row to be an assistant coach at CSUN University. I never even got an interview.
Don't blame them.
Okay, I never even got an interview.
Listen to this.
And I've got more pedigree than any idiot assistant coach they have on that basketball team. And they got the idiot coach from North Carolina State who cheated, who's there now. I don't know his name either, like I really care. Mark something. Who's the coach at CSUN now?
Gottfried.
Was it NC State? Gottfried, yeah. Cheated, got kicked out of North Carolina State. I applied 3 years in a row. I live out here. I live 5 minutes from the campus. I ride my bike there every day. I'm like, I played for Bob Knight. I know defense. I've played with national champions.
So your
I played with
resume to be
NBA
a college
champions.
coach as I played for Bob Knight.
My resume, yeah. Well,
okay. So Chuck
okay,
Franz.
yeah, you're right. But it doesn't matter the knowledge base that I have. But they wouldn't even look at it because it was not on my resume, because I spent 25 years working for Pfizer and I coached teams, high-performing teams, and got teams to work as a group, and we achieved incredible goals at Pfizer, financial goals, sales goals, everything. We achieved success, but yet they can't equate that over to the fact that I could transfer that to a basketball game when I spent the first 25, 30 years of my life involved in basketball. They can't equate that. They won't equate that. So, yeah, I think Brian's exactly right.
All right.
It's
I don't
resume
see what that has to do.
and that's
Okay,
what it
so
boils
when
down
you
to.
look at the resumes, Steve.
That's my explanation for what
Steve,
it goes on.
So explain to me the resume. What do you think is Lipscomb's best win when you look at it?
I have no idea. I don't even know who Lipscomb is. Where is Lipscomb? Isn't that Lancome? Isn't that like a makeup or something?
God, C-Sun was so right. All right, Steve.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing, the one thing too, with that is if a bubble team's only wins, like only marquee wins, which in this case Belmont and Lipscomb is, because I don't count UCLA as a big win for Belmont considering the way UCLA was playing at the time. It only shows that it starts to raise the question as to whether that's just a good matchup for Belmont and they can take advantage of that, as opposed to them being a better team than Lipscomb, especially if Lipscomb has the kind of resume that they do.
Okay, I've heard enough. I'm going to go off the deep end here. Neither Lipscomb or Belmont are relevant in this whole process because neither one of them are going to be competitive in the tournament.
Yeah, they will.
They are.
That's absolutely stupid.
Come into the tournament.
Absolutely
They're
stupid.
filler teams that will get
Somebody
in
who's
because they
talking
win a
out their
conference
ass that
championship.
knows nothing.
You know what, Mike, here and Brian, here's what they need to do. They need to take one more weekend and take the NCAA tournament. No, this will never happen because of TV.
It won't happen because they're already in the tournament, Steve. God.
No. You let them like
they
the high school
are.
basketball tournament, which they made a major motion picture out of.
Wow.
And say, you know what? Milan has a chance. So we give Lipscomb and Belmont and everybody.
They already have a chance, Steve.
Open it up. I know, but you
Freaking
do it to the
moron.
conference championships, which is just a money-making ploy. No, just say, no, the NCAA tournament is its own entity. And you just let everybody play. And you open it up. And you make it what made Indiana high school basketball so great was it single class, everybody plays, may the best team win, whoever that is, for that 4-week stretch of time. But until that happens, Lipscomb and Belmont are not relevant. They are not going to beat Kentucky. They are not going to beat Tennessee. They are not going to beat Duke. They
wait
might
a
beat
second.
Virginia.
Wait a second. Who did
The
Belmont
Baltimore
beat in the tournament a couple years ago?
UMBC can beat. It's just not
Belmont
going
beat
to
somebody in the tournament, didn't they, a few years ago, Brian?
Yeah, they beat somebody. You're right.
And
What's the matter you? They beat What's the matter you? Where Boris Nastasic.
Will you shut up and
Boris
let Brian
Karloff
talk?
went
Because you've already, the only thing you're doing is you're just running your mouth because
Rambling.
it's been revealed you know nothing.
I know.
Go ahead, Brian.
Right.
If Lipscomb gets in, unless they get a really bad matchup, if Lipscomb gets in that 11, 12, 13 range, they're going to win again.
Nuts.
Yeah.
You're nuts.
They'll have a
You're
shot at
nuts.
the Sweet 16 too.
You're
According to
nuts.
who they play.
You're all nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
You're
can
all
you say
nuts.
we're nuts when you've never seen them play? If you'd have seen them play, you knew that they blew out TCU by like around double digits.
And who is TCU?
Well, they're in the Big 12 and they're 16-5, Steve.
All right. Okay. How many national championship banners they have hanging in their gym?
Who?
TCU.
None that I know of. They might
none. Zero times
mean?
2 is still 0, buddy. Yeah, there you go.
So wait a second.
There are teams that will be there that will rise to the top, and we'll get down to the final 16 teams again.
Like Loyola Chicago was in the Final Four last year.
There will be a few surprises.
Wait a second, Steve. Let me ask you a question. Was Loyola in his Final Four last year?
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
Were they? Okay. Are they irrelevant as a program?
They are this year.
Are they irrelevant as a program?
Yeah.
Why?
One-hit wonder.
They've got a national championship.
Jerry Harkness back in 1958, 57, 63. Okay, yeah.
They beat UC in double overtime, one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. So if they've got a banner. Wait a second. Shut up. You cannot have it both ways. You just sat here and said they aren't relevant because they don't have a banner. And you called Loyola Chicago relevant
when they get in because they get an automatic bid into the tournament because they win their conference championship. It's relevant if you let all teams play and then they come out and do it like Milan did, like Hickory did in the mythical movie by our good friend Angelo. You know, they got in.
And let me ask you this, Steve. Let me ask you this, Steve. Just one simple question, yes or no. Does every team in Division I college basketball get a chance to play for a national championship?
No, they don't.
They don't. Okay. What team doesn't?
Every team that doesn't win their conference championship.
Oh. Brian, let me ask you the same question since you're not an idiot. Does every team basically get a chance to play for a national championship?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's true.
Right.
I mean, you basically, for some reason, you woke up this morning and you took a good dump and you feel really good about yourself and you just want to talk. And it's gotten to the point where I've just got to slow you down because now you're talking out of where you pooped.
All right. Brian, you want to talk about Kansas and their situation? Move on. I don't agree. I don't agree because I'm a purist in sport. I'm the guy. No, I'm the guy that grew up on the dirt bowls, dust bowls, and said, winner stays up. Winner stays up.
And the great thing about the NCAA tournament is this:
and
everybody in the conference tournament, if they win, they get to keep playing.
And we're at Lawrence Park playing on concrete with a rubber basketball until 11:30 at night. When the park finally shuts the lights off. And you know what? We've won 12, 13, 14 games in a row, and nobody can beat us because you're just playing.
Yeah. So it's the same thing
playing
that happens.
the game for the love of the game.
Same thing that happens in the NCAA tournament.
Are bullshit. Conference championships are a money-making thing for
every
league to make money. For the ACC, the Big Ten. No, it is too. But I'm saying you want to make it real, open it up to every team, let every team play. In the NCAA tournament, let them go, and let's have at it, boys. Let's have at it.
Steve. Ask your Kansas question, Steve, so you don't keep going on about something that makes
I already asked the Kansas question. Brian, talk about the situation at Kansas. Go ahead. I'm done. I'm gonna watch Regis and Kathy Lee now.
Regis
it's
no longer is with Kathy
a multi-layered thing at Kansas that a lot of people can't fully wrap their heads around, and I don't even know if I can fully wrap my head around it. So. The whole situation with Silvio De Sousa involves his recruitment and him coming to America and having a guardian who essentially shopped him through his recruitment to a bunch of different programs. The FBI investigation, a Maryland booster gave him, I believe, $60,000 trying to get him to go to Maryland, all these different things. But his guardian basically shopped him. And because of that, the NCAA ruled this week that he was ineligible to play for this season and then all of next season. And Kansas is up in arms about this because depending on what you read, and there's a lot of supporting facts supporting the fact that D'Souza may not or probably did not know that his guardian was doing this and trying to and essentially shopping him in his recruitment. And so there becomes the fact of this kid essentially being taken advantage of by his guardian, and that's the part that Kansas is objecting to, the fact that this kid is now serving a really severe punishment because of the wrongdoings of someone else who he mistakenly trusted, so to speak. Which there is a lot of that's a separate debate in terms of whether or not you think someone should be punished for that, and you think the NCAA should have that kind of jurisdiction, and blah blah blah. But by letter of the law, when a player essentially gets shopped in his recruitment and takes money to go play places, that's going to be a major NCAA violation all the time. And so the fact that Kansas is coming across like they're shocked by this, I think it is complete naivete on their part, the fact that they didn't think that this was coming. Yes, you could argue on behalf of the player that he didn't know, but just from what we've seen with the NCAA, you knew something of this nature was coming. I find it more alarming the fact that we've seen some of these players get punished who are involved in the FBI investigation, but not any of the coaches, especially someone like Bill Self, who his school, Kansas, was mentioned on multiple occasions in the FBI investigation, and the fact that nothing's been done or he hasn't faced any sort of punishment or real backlash or come under fire or anything of that sort. I find that and the lack of going after coaches more alarming than D'Souza's suspension.
Mike, you got a comment? Because I got about 50.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is horseshit. This is absolute horseshit because the only person that, once again, being punished is the student athlete. He's the one now being told he cannot play basketball for all the rest of this year and all of next year. You're right. Is Kansas getting punished in this at all, other than the fact that they've lost the player, which they can go recruit around him next year, no problem. Mm-hmm. Self is not getting punished. He's not getting censured, licensed at all. And why does the NCAA just say not this? Because we pretty well determined that Adidas was behind this. Is that fair to say, Brian?
The FBI investigation is claiming
okay,
that.
Okay, so why does the NCAA just not say, Adidas, you cannot sponsor a college basketball team for 2 years? Why don't they? Yeah, I know what the answer is, Mike. Yeah, laugh. I know what the answer is, right. But why does it? The NCAA really, truly has the student athlete, and the student athlete is the one getting punished here and getting stripped of his ability to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Why doesn't the NCAA say, Adidas, you know what? You perpetrated this crap. You brought the check. You got the guy with the paper bag. You're out of college basketball for 2 years. All your contracts with us are now null and void. You're done for 2 years. You want to stop it? Stop it. You know, don't sit there and tell me you're going to punish a player when everybody else is the perpetrators of this thing, and the player is just trying to say, crap, everybody else is making $1 gazillion. Why can't I? That's all that's happening here. This is horse shit in its rawest form.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly solve the problem, but the NCAA doesn't want to actually solve the problem.
Go to Adidas and say, you're done. You're out 2 years. Yeah. Nike and Under Armour, get your business for 2 years. You can come back in 2 years and reinstate. Mike, am I right or wrong? I know I'm right in one way, but I know you're laughing because you're going, it's never going to happen.
I'm laughing because it's never going to happen. They're never going to punish.
Right,
Adidas.
Exactly, right. I mean, yeah.
You don't bite the hand that feeds you.
It's the answer to. You want to fix the problem. You know what? You want to slow cars down. They don't
want to fix the problem. They don't care. They just want to brush everything under the rug.
Right. You want to slow cars down at IMS. I'm an auto racing fan, Mike. You know that. Cars go 240 miles an hour on that track, and they're like, oh, my God, the speeds are out. You know how to slow the cars down? Narrow the tires. That's all you got to do. Make the tires more narrow. Take some ground effect off the cars. The cars can't drive that fast. You want to fix the problem? Take Adidas out of the loop for 2 years and say, you cheat, you're out. You're done. You're done for 2 years. You cannot sign a contract with an NCAA-sanctioned school for 2 years.
Why wouldn't they just stop shoe companies from buying schools to begin with?
because that's under the table. It's going to go on no matter what. But you just say you cannot legally sign a contract with any one of our Division I member schools.
I'm sorry, but if you wanted to stop people from cheating, it could be done. They just don't really care. They just don't want it to come to light, so they have to do something about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got another opinion too, but it's probably not wise to say. So, screw it. It's just horseshit for the kid. I feel bad for the kid. Most likely they're in a situation where the money probably means the most to them that it does of anybody in this whole process. Mm-hmm. Bill Self's a millionaire. Kansas is filthy rich. Adidas is a gazillionaire. And this kid is probably trying to, keep a roof over their family's head, trying to keep medical bills paid for, trying to get food on their table, and we're going to punish the kid. That's genius. That's the NCAA at its freaking finest. There you go, because we are all about the student athlete. And we're going to punish, the only person that we can punish is the one who's being hurt the most to begin with in this whole process, who has the talent and what everybody's after. It's horseshit.
Yeah,
Emmert and those guys are idiots.
Completely agree.
They are idiots. They are absolute idiots. They're money-grubbing idiots.
I completely agree.
Tell me that the NCAA is a not-for-profit organization is the biggest bullshit story in the world. There, I've said it.
All right, Brian. We will see you back Tuesday if you want to come back to this shit show next week.
No, we're not done. No, I have more questions. I have another question.
God.
I want to get that off my chest. Are we done? You guys want to leave? 10:08. Okay, you want done? I got one more question, Brian. Bracketology, your specialty. Gonzaga. Who are the top four seeds right now?
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga. Whatever. Okay, I'm sorry. Right now, who are the top four seeds in the tournament right now?
Right now, Duke's number one overall. They have more good wins than anybody else. Tennessee's up there. Virginia's up there. And that fourth spot is either going to go to Gonzaga or Kentucky, depending on if you value Kentucky's big wins lately or if you value Gonzaga's win over Duke early and they're kind of level dominant since then. I would probably lean Gonzaga right now, but it's going to be a matter of, whoever gets that, I would put them as 1 seed and 2 seed in that region. They're going to get the final 1 seed and the first 2 seeds.
Anything else, Steve?
Okay. No, I'm done. I'm tired.
All right, Brian. We cannot wait to have you back Tuesday, where Steve will be loaded for you again. If you want to come back Tuesday,
can't wait. I can't wait.
All right. He won't. I'm sure bracketology and FanSided are not going to let him come back. Because I'm sure we're between your idiot tirade yesterday, my idiot tirade today.
I didn't have an idiot tirade yesterday.
Blackballed from everything.
Yeah.
So whatever.
I want to say something, but I won't. All right, Brian Rauf, tell everybody where they can find you. There's going to be something about Lindsey Vaughn, but go ahead.
Oh, Mike. That's a
oh, no. Oh, no.
Brian, if you want people to find you on the internet, why don't you tell them where they can find you on Twitter?
You can find my stuff at bustingbrackets.com. Every article I post will go up on there, or you can follow me on Twitter at brauf33, BRAUF 33, and all my stuff gets posted there as well. So follow me on
Brian,
Twitter.
Hang up and save yourself, please. Hang up and save yourself while you can.
Oh hell! All right, guys.
Brian, are you coming back next Tuesday, Brian? Because I'm going to have about 150 more questions for you.
I'm coming back next Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you.
So make sure you check out Brian every Tuesday on The Grilling Truth. We will have Bobby Sheridan after this.
Who's scared to death right now. He's sitting there sitting his pants right now, not want to come on this show today.
After this commercial break, we will be right back with the most serious show in sports radio.
Hello, boxing fans. I'm Michael Montero of Montero on Boxing. You may have read
Thanks,
my
guys.
work in Boxing Monthly Magazine,
Great
Ring
job,
Magazine,
Brian.
or their
I'm sorry.
associated
Thank you.
websites. Maybe on
You
the
guys
Champion
are great.
Network.
You guys are great.
Maybe
I'll
you've
talk to you
heard my
next week.
segments
Thanks,
on
Brian.
NBC Sports
Bye-bye.
Radio or any of the other platforms where I do work regularly. Wanted to invite you to check out my podcast, The Neutral
That was
Corner.
good.
We upload it every Monday. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course at thegruelingtruth.net. Every week we go over the news, the rumors, the latest fights being put together. We analyze everything, give you the business behind the business, and then we review all the action that took place in the ring during the prior week around the world. Not just the big popular fights, but all the fights, including the little guys. And then, of course, we preview the action coming up this week. Again, Michael Montero, The Neutral Corner, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and thegruelingtruth.net.
Welcome back to Survive in Advance, everybody. If you're related to Lindsey Vonn, I would like to apologize. If you're not, Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
Well, I'm definitely not related to Lindsey Vonn, whoever that is.
See, he doesn't know who she is either, Steve. But if you listen to the first hour of the
He's got to
show,
know who Lindsey
you'll
Vonn
know.
is.
No, he doesn't. I don't think he
I know
does.
who Jock Vaughn is. He used to play guard for Kansas.
I remember Jacques Vaughn, number 11, wasn't he?
Yes, and speaking of Kansas, we're going to have a little bit more to talk about them in a little bit. But I heard of Lindsey Vonn. I know she's an actress, but I don't know much anything else
An
about
actress.
her. Oh, she's not even that? What is she, a singer?
No, hell. We just lost any chances to get Lindsey Vonn on the show, I think. Well, I think we probably lost
I
that at the
know.
end of the last segment. But what's your big
If
take
she's
for tonight?
hot, she'll come in and... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Kansas State tonight. Who you got?
Yes, sir. Well, Kansas State's just is a great position. If you just like college basketball and you don't even like betting and you just like stories, this is a pretty good one. Kansas State has lost 8 straight to Kansas, and the overall is they're 9-78 against them, going back to the last 87. It's one of the most lopsided rivalries in sports right now, and it really has a compelling backdrop to this game because as they go into this game tonight, Kansas State's the better team and the better position, and that does put some pressure on them, and they are going against Bill Self, which is kind of like what I have a new handicapping angle. That's the Risley factor. And, he's taught me going against these great coaches, especially in February, is risky. And that's why the line's only 2 and now has gone up to 3. It should be maybe 5, 6, or 7. But the Vegas odds, they do know that coaches like Self and those great ones, Krzyzewski and all the ones that we know, they get a lot of backing. And so Kansas State, let's talk about why they're in this position they're in tonight. They're a Final 8 team last year, Elite 8, and they return everybody. I mean, this is one of the teams that has got a shot this year to win the whole thing. And, they're well equipped to end this 8-game losing streak, and they're very motivated. The 2 senior stars, Wade and Barry, they've never beaten Kansas, as I said, 8 in a row. And it's kind of the, if not now, when. If we don't beat them now with 5 starters returning, Kansas is 1-3 on the road in conference and 1-5 overall on the road this year in true road games. If we don't beat them now with these 5 guys who have Elite 8 experience, when are we ever going to beat them? And, if you've been in sports, coaching or playing, we've all been in situations like this where we've had trouble with a team and now it's our turn. And in the times when I've coached and played, especially coached, I used to be a pretty successful high school baseball coach in the area. And when we've had situations like this, our guys got it done because kids understand now's our time. And with the home backing, the home crowd, and, just so much that means so much in these college games. Kansas State is a good spot tonight. So you can lay the 3 points, you can take them at home, and you should probably have about a 75% chance, 80% chance to win this game tonight.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I got along these lines. We've got a free play tonight that's on the site. and it's on the Twitter, your neck of the woods, the Pacers, the Lakers are coming into town, and Lakers and Lance Stevenson, the ex-Pacer, and, I don't know where the Lakers' mindset is at all with all the drama that, is the new day of the NBA. It's like watching one of Steve's soap operas, but the Lakers,
not that bad.
We don't know where their head is. We know they have a great player, but we don't know where their head is. And we know where Indiana's is. Indiana's a defensive team that they know what they've got to do to win these ball games, and they're together. And the disadvantages that they have in the backcourt aren't going to show up as much tonight against the Lakers. The Lakers are unconventional in that way, and Darren Collison's playing really well. And he came on last night in the postgame, and he really implored the Pacers fans, show up tomorrow, big time. We don't need, some of this Lakers stuff in the audience, and LeBron fans tomorrow night. We need you, Pacer fans. This team's trying to hang on, and I think they're going to. They're going to hang on to that middle East, and these are the kind of positions, what I mean. 4, 5 spot, 3 spot, and these are the kind of games they need. A home game, they're getting 2.5. That line's down to 2.5, and I think they're a decent play tonight on the money line. They're getting plus $1.20 on the money line, so that's my free play. And then K-State would be a top play. We have 2 other plays in the NBA, including a top play that are really.
Hey, Bob, before you move on, I have a question for you. With the research you do, the Lakers and the Pacers are 2 kind of enigmas in the NBA right now, because in my perception, and I'm not a big NBA fan, so I'm talking from a 10,000-foot level, to me, the Lakers are one of the bigger underachieving teams in the NBA. Am I right or wrong there? I mean, they've got talent.
Well,
they got Kuzma, they got Paul, right. They've got LeBron. I mean, they got Magic in their front office. Is this just an underachieving, disenfranchised franchise?
Yes, Steve, they really are, and I think it. You look at Ingram, Ball, Kuzma.
They got talent.
Large. Yeah, they got talent, and they got high picks that really haven't played like they think they were supposed to play. And I think LeBron's come in here, and it's pretty evident that LeBron,
disrupted things.
Older LeBron, with these guys is not going to do it, and they need the 3 stars. That's how they're going to win it, and that's why they're willing to pretty much give up anything to get the next one, and then next summer pay for the next one, and then there's their team. And that's
so. Are they really hurting? Are they really hurting the nucleus of what was really an up-and-coming young franchise?
Absolutely.
Did it really maybe do more damage than good to bring LeBron into this thing? And because he wanted to make movies and wanted to live in Brentwood, and he's got, a gated state and everything, and but did it really do more damage? And is Luke Walton the right coach for this team?
Well, you just hit that on the head. Luke Walton is not the right coach for this team. I don't believe he'll be the coach when this team holds up that trophy. They're going to get it because it's LA, it's LeBron, and they're making the moves to get it. And the reason is what you just said. The answer is it hurting this team, bringing him in? No, because they're going to be in the finals in another year or so. So no, it's not. And that's what their organization is about. There are other teams out there. If you watch the NBA on a nightly basis, you watch the Sacramento Kings last night, who we bet against and regretfully lost that game. San Antonio showed up and played, but Sacramento, they just have so much young talent. When those kids put it together and play a game, I mean, the Lakers are not the most talented younger. There's other teams out there better. You need the stars, Steve, and LeBron's going to bring the stars and hopefully.
Well, and that's because I think the NBA is as much about entertainment as it about competition.
In some factors, yes. But if you watch,
I think they're as close to championship wrestling as probably a professional sport will get. Along with
I would agree with
that, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. Yeah, but if you've watched the games this year, there's defense, even though the scores are up, there is defense going on, and there is a good passing game. You would really like
young players are coming to the league. Yeah, young collegiate players coming in who were trained and taught defense, and that era of the guys who didn't want to play defense seems to be they finally are retiring and getting out of the game, and these young kids are coming in and they want to work hard, they want to play, they want to hustle, but then you bring somebody like a LeBron into the mix for, I mean, ticket prices went through the roof out here in LA. You know that. You live out here. I mean, a seat that costs you $500 at a Clippers game costs you $5,000 at a Lakers game, the same seat.
Right.
You know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know because you live closer to the stadium and Staples than probably I do, truthfully. So probably. But but then on the commerce side of that, are the Pacers kind of what the NBA kind of wants to model, a team that, lost their star, yet have they fallen off that much? And they're not going to win the championship, but they still play hard and hustle and are still giving an effort and winning games that maybe they,
You bet.
So are we seeing a transgression? Mike, you got a comment on this too? Please, Mike, let me dominate this conversation. Now, you know more about the NBA than I do.
They're done.
Go ahead.
They end up a 6 or 7 seed. They get knocked out in the first round. Without Oladipo, they've only won 1 or 2 games without him, haven't they, Bobby?
Have they? Is that all they've done?
Well, they've won overall. They got 9 wins on the year, but 7 of those were his previous injuries. But they do have 2 wins now. Yeah, they do have 2 since he he's a star, yes. But what that really hurt was, Evans went out at the same time. They lost 2 of their 4 backcourt guys, and their depth really took a hit. And what I'm trying to say is they're going to be able to figure it out and stay in that playoff mix. Are they a threat? No, we talked about that. But Indiana is kind of like Utah. They're just a good organization that does things right, that has a good mix of players, plays the game right, is well coached. They're a good basketball team, but they'll never win a championship unless they get one of the big guys, and that's the NBA, and that's what we don't like. Darn it, it's not survive and advance. It's not the name of.
Well, that's the way. That's the way the game's refereed too. I think in large part is it's refereed towards superstars.
We could have a whole other show on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's refereed towards superstars. Of all the sports in the world, the NBA is probably the most refereed to favor superstars of any sport, professional sport that I know of.
I think they all
absolutely.
They all are.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. But I think the NBA is top of that list.
It stands out more
there
with
is
the
the
NBA,
list.
if you know what I mean.
Right.
Do you remember Mike? Remember, Mike, the calls that Greg Maddux used to get? He'd own an inch off of the plate. Those great pitchers would get all the calls.
Man, who was the pitcher? The old story about it was there was some rookie that was batting against him. This was a long time ago. And it's like a 3-0 count, and they throw a pitch to him. And the kid looks back at the umpire and asks why it's a strike. Or what the hell was it? It was Bob Gibson. You know the story I'm talking about, Bobby? I just lost my complete train of thought.
Well,
like Mr. Gibson will let you know when it's a strike or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's. But MLB has done a great job of kind of overcoming that now, with the strike zone being on the. Every pitch now is analyzed, and we can see the box, and the umpires now are graded based on those analytics. So a lot of that is out the window now. Steve is right. The NBA is absolutely far and above the star factor on the officiating, and they can control so much just by a couple calls. Last night, it's off topic a little bit, but the Pacer game, I'm not one to complain too much about wins and losses. I think they, in terms of betting, they even out with the calls. They really do. You get some breaks a lot of times, and sometimes you don't. But last night, the Pacers are inbounding the ball up 3 with 4 seconds left. So they're going to inbound the ball and get fouled, correct? Then they're going to go up 4 or 5, and then it all depends on if the opposing team coming down throws up their 3 and it goes in or not, and that's what the bet comes down to. Because in Indiana, I laid 1.5. I was fine. But some of the clients laid 2.5, 3, and so they've got the 3-point lead and the ball. They call an offensive foul before the ball is inbounded on Indiana, forget who it was, going the other way. So and then they foul on purpose because they don't want to give up the 3-ball to tie. So now you're pretty much 80-90% win and cover is now down to, you're probably not even going to cover, and they wound up winning by 2. And the call was a joke. It was some screening foul. You know how they screen to get a guy. They call it. You never see it. So the officials can control. They can control everything. That guy could. It was a bullshit call. Excuse me for saying that. It was a BS call. And I don't cry usually about those kind of things.
Okay. Here's my question to you, Bobby. And from your perspective, as an analyst and as a handicapper, however you want to define, who's the better bet? Is it the Pacers who play hard, or is it the Lakers who are going to get the call? If you're betting on these games, do you want to take the Pacers who will bust their ass, and they're not the best team, but they're going to play hard every game because they're young kids that want to play, or are you going to take the Lakers where LeBron's going to get 95% of the calls, they're going to go his way? What's the better bet? That's a good question.
It's a good question. It's not the playoffs, and in my opinion, Indiana's going to have an 8 or 10 point lead, and so it's not going to matter. I think Indiana can control this game tonight, and it won't come down to the last play, the last call. At least I'm hoping it doesn't. If it does, LeBron's going to have the ball in his hands, and he's going to be able to make something happen, probably going towards the basket and probably get the call. You don't really.
Okay, but let me go back to my original question. If I've got $1,000 to bet tonight, do I want to bet on the Pacers game, or do I want to bet on whoever the Lakers are playing?
They're playing each other.
Well.
Okay.
Well, I think what he means is, does he want to bet
Golden
on
State? Golden State. Let me superstar team. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike. You're exactly right. I didn't realize. I forgot the fact they're playing each other tonight. Well, let's say, do I want to bet on Stephen Curry and the Golden State, who are going to get all the calls, or do I want to bet on the Pacers, who could play their asses off and beat the Lakers tonight? Where do I want to put my betting?
Almost every time you're going to, but almost every time you're going to want to bet on the Pacers, because the Lakers and those superstar teams, the line, you're not going to get any value with the line. See, the lines, you're not going to get a good line on the teams that are overvalued.
All right.
And that's why the teams like the Pacers, or like this Warriors, are typically throughout the season not a good bet. You have to pick your spots, and you have to pick your timing with them, and we've talked about that. This game tonight, the Lakers are favored, and really the Pacers should be a small favorite in this game. But you got the LeBron factor, and you've got supposedly.
I don't even know. Is LeBron playing tonight? Is he playing tonight?
Yeah, he's playing tonight, and he would have played the other night.
Okay.
He would have played the other night if that was a winnable game, and it was a game that the Lakers. This is the kind of stuff that I feel I'm right on. If the Lakers make the playoffs, it'll be as an 8 seed or 7 seed. Well, the 8th spot would put them playing the Warriors. So, when LeBron faces the Warriors, it might as well just be in the playoffs. Why now? That's not a game that they were likely to win. So just rest him up, get him ready for tonight's game, and let him have the extra time. He played 40 minutes in his first game back against the Clippers, which was probably 10 more than he wanted to play. But they had to win that game. And because the Clippers are the 8th spot and the Lakers are in the 10th spot now. Sacramento's 9. So the Lakers are going to be scrambling to get that 8th spot and play Golden State. So why play him? All right, just wait it out and play him in the first round.
Okay. Mike?
Huh? What do you got on this day in history, Bob?
Yeah, what's on this day in history?
Mike, here's where you come in. You're my boxing guy, and you're everybody's boxing guy. 1977, when I was a kid.
Don't do that. You'll swell his head again. Now he's going to have a
bigger head. Shut up.
The truth is the truth, Steve, and just like I have a Risley factor in my handicapping now. If I handicap boxing, which I don't, there would be many Mike factors. And 1977, Sugar Ray Leonard made his debut on this day. Fought a guy named Vega. I don't know that guy, but talk to me, please, a little bit about Sugar Ray, because this guy was something else. And today marked his end. He started it all out today. What are your memories of Sugar Ray? Have you ever interviewed him?
I remember I've talked to him about interviewing him. I haven't got him yet, but the thing that stood out to me is he made like $40,000 for his pro debut, and to kind of compare that, in 1977, Marvin Hagler was a top 10 heavyweight or middleweight that wasn't even making $40,000 a fight. Leonard was basically America's sweetheart from the '76 Olympics. Howard Cosell, him and Cosell kind of played off like Ali and Cosell did. His first fight, what I remember, was on CBS Sports Spectacular. He fought a guy by the name of Luis Vega, who at the time they said had a 14-8 record. If you look at BoxRec today or anything, it'll show the guy was actually 8-11. Leonard won every round. Vega never went down. I think he was a guy that had never been knocked down. But the thing that's amazing about Leonard is he became a household name because boxing was on TV. I mean, his second fight, he fought a guy by the name of Willie Fireball Rodriguez, who I think was actually ranked in the top 10. That's any second fight. He wins a unanimous decision over Rodriguez. And the thing about Leonard is his pro debut was in February of '77. By November of '79, he's the welterweight champion of the world. And he fought like every month. I mean, if you look at 1978, there's a fight. Outside of January, there's a fight every month. In 1979, there's a fight almost every month. And he wasn't just fighting guys that were bums that he could beat up easily. I mean, he fought Armando Muniz, who I've interviewed on the show before, was a great welterweight. Floyd Mayweather Sr., who went the distance with him. Randy Shields, who's been on the show. Randy was a hell of a fighter, great guy too. Adolfo Verwet, Marcus Geraldo, who was a tough middleweight. I mean, he fought a middleweight before he fought for the welterweight title. I remember on NBC Sports, they tried to reincarnate the old Friday night fights. And Leonard against Tony Schiavone, I think, was one of those fights. He beat Pete Ranzani, who's been on the show. Andy Price, who was highly ranked at that time. And I remember with that fight, it was on ABC. I forget who the hell fought in the main event. I think it might have been the second Shavers Holmes fight. But Price-Leonard was on the undercard in Caesar's Palace. And Howard Cosell actually thought that he was stepping up too quickly in class. He knocks Price out with the first punch he throws. Then he beats Wilfred Benitez for the title, stops Benitez in the 15th round. Then, of course, he goes to Montreal, and I couldn't stand Sugar Ray Leonard at the time because I thought that he was just all flash. But he goes to fight Duran in Montreal, and it's an absolute war. And he stood toe-to-toe with Duran when he should have been boxing, but he was trying to prove that he was tough. He proved it, and if you watch that fight could have went either way. It wasn't definitely a Duran win. And then he stops Duran in the second, or in the 8th round, the No Moss fight, where he basically broke Duran's will. Then you get a title defense. I think it was Larry Bonds. That was at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, since Steve didn't care about Syracuse, Florida State. Then he beats Ayub Kalule at the Houston Astrodome in a junior middleweight fight. And then, of course, you get the showdown, the first fight between him and Tommy Hearns. And I remember I used to subscribe to Boxing Illustrated magazine, and Tommy Hearns actually bought an ad in a magazine calling Sugar Ray a chicken to try to get him out to fight. They fight. Leonard, and this is the thing that made Leonard great. I think since I've been alive, Sugar Ray Leonard is the greatest fighter I have ever seen that has fought while I've been alive. Because the thing he did there is Hearns had a big, long jab, but he was known for knocking people out. But Hearns turns boxer in this. Yeah, Hearns turns boxer in this fight. And is boxing Leonard's ears off. And you get to about the 12th, 13th round, and Leonard needs a knockout to win the fight. And he basically, I remember Angelo Dundee goes, "You're blowing it, kid, you're blowing it," before the 14th round. And he comes out and he stops Hearns. And that's the difference between Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. would have never taken the chances that Sugar Ray Leonard took. Then, of course, he beats Bruce Finch, but that's a fight that ends up basically ending for a while because of a detached retina. He comes back for a short comeback against Kevin Howard in 1984. Howard knocked him down. Then you get Marvin Hagler. I still think Hagler won this fight, but it was a close fight. It could have went either way, and Hagler was considered unbeatable at the time. I think looking back at it, I haven't got to interview Hagler, but I have got to speak to him before because I know his son James, who's a boxing promoter now, and he said he didn't even want to take the Leonard fight by then because he knew that it was too far gone, because he'd had trouble with John the Beast Mugabe a little over a year before that. He was ready to retire, but the money was so great he took the fight. And then a fight that people forget is he fought Donnie Lalonde. Donnie Lalonde was the light heavyweight champion of the world. He was a hell of a fighter. He was from Canada, and they get in a fight, and if you watch this fight, Lalonde knocks Leonard down on the fourth round. He's winning the fight, and then Leonard hits him with a hellacious shot. And I've interviewed Donnie Lalonde before. He said it's the hardest he's ever been hit. He imagines that's what it would be like to get hit by a baseball bat. And he gets stopped in the ninth round. Then you get the second fight with Tommy Hearns, which I thought he lost. And I think that by the time you get to here, he's pretty much done. You get the third fight with Duran, which was basically Duran going in for a paycheck. Basically said no moss without quitting. They looked at each other for 12 rounds. And then, of course, he gets dominated in 1991 by terrible Terry Norris, who was supposed to be the next Sugar Ray Leonard, but Norris wins every round. Leonard has sense enough to retire, but then he screws up and he comes back 6 years later, and an old Hector Camacho knocks him out in the fifth round. That's pretty much it from there. And then, if you remember the first Contender Series, Steve likes reality shows. Sylvester Stallone and Sugar Ray Leonard did the first Contender Series about 10 years ago on TV. But yeah, for my money, Sugar Ray Leonard is the greatest fighter. Him and Marvin Hagler are the two greatest fighters I have ever seen live.
Wow, that's amazing. And you look at a guy like Mayweather now, who this newer generation knows as maybe the greatest, and he couldn't, as Larry Holmes said, he couldn't carry his jock.
Well, the problem is this. Guys back then, even if they were winning the fight, would try to get their fans their money where they're going to try to get a knockout. And today, guys are just happy to be good enough to get by. And with Floyd Mayweather Jr., he is an outstanding talent. But if he's beating up a guy 10 rounds to nothing, he's not taking any chances in those last 2 rounds. Where Sugar Ray Leonard would go ahead and try to get your ass out of there. The fight against Larry Bonds, he wins the first 9 rounds. He could have coasted through 12, which is what a guy like Mayweather would have done. But Leonard just went out and knocked him out in the 10th round instead of playing with him. And that's why I admire those guys compared to the guys you've got today. The guys today, there's a few guys that'll take chances like that, but for the most part, they won't. And I think what we've seen is a softening in every sport, Steve, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, boxing, no matter what it is. I think we just live in a softer world where people aren't as apt to want to achieve greatness. They just want to achieve good enough.
It's really funny. I have a couple questions, Mike. It was while you were talking, and that's eloquent, Mike. I mean, boxing. I wouldn't even know where to even profess to begin to talk to you about boxing because I don't know much about the sport. I know that it's a more of a strategic sport than it is barbaric as it appears, and you've taught me that, and I appreciate that in all sincerity. Couple questions. I think the deal about softness comes from the fact that the money is so great now that they can do it shorter, quicker, and make more money.
That's every sport that's got something to do with it. But
right. No, you know what? While you were talking, I looked up the top 20 highest paid NBA player. You know who the number 1 highest paid NBA player of all time is? I mean, in terms of money earned and not contract signed, money earned. You know who it is? I think you do. It's Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
$246 million he's made. So I just looked at the list. 15 of the top 20 guys I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Zach Randolph is like number 8. And Zach Randolph is an idiot from Marion, Indiana.
A better example is this. Floyd Mayweather fought Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao made $130 million.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather made $300 million.
Yeah, but that's what softens. To me, that's what softens it. That's why guys like
but
Nolan
this is
Ryan.
the thing, Steve. The
What
same
Nolan
thing.
Ryan did to play that, as long as he
Wait,
did
though.
get the strikeouts he
Hold
did,
on.
he had,
Go with the
I'm
comparison
sorry.
of this, though. All right?
Yeah.
Sugar Ray Leonard was
Yeah.
fighting Roberto Duran. He was fighting and making
He
$1
loved to
million.
fight.
No, listen. He was making $1 million or more every fight. And back then, that was the same
Yeah.
as making $10 million
a lot
now.
of money.
But that did not
Right, yeah.
deter him from wanting to be greater. And that is also incorrect because like I said, I've talked to Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard didn't turn pro until a year after he won gold almost. And that was because he didn't want to turn pro. He wanted to go and be a doctor. He wanted to go to college, graduate, because he didn't want to get hit in the face anymore. But the problem is this. It costs money to go to school. So he gets in. He signs like a 3-year, $3 million contract with CBS, a $1 million contract with HBO. And, yeah, that could pay for his schooling. But by the time he's 2 years into this, still in that contract, they're offering him $2.5 million to fight Wilfred Benitez. He wins that fight, and they're offering him, $3 million to fight Duran, and then $5 million to fight Leonard, or to fight Hearns. So before you know it, it is about the money. But even though it's about the money, they had enough pride and self-respect that they were going to go out and earn that money. And today, I think the problem is this. Society as a whole, and you know this, I mean, kids are given too much. I'm sure you gave Ross too much. I give my kids too much. We don't make them work for it because we just don't. I mean, you want to do everything you can for your kids.
Yeah.
So what you end up is you end up one of two things. You either get parents that don't give a shit, or you got parents that give too much. And, hell, I remember when I was younger, that's all I heard from my dad is you got to work hard. And my dad made really good money. But that was the first thing. And I think just overall from the mid-late 70s to now, I think it's just been a gradually softening of society. I mean, people get hurt because somebody says a mean word to them. When I grew up, you just got punched in the mouth and you didn't say it to them again.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you one other,
Mike.
while we're on boxing, let me ask one other question, Mike. Why don't professional boxers, with CTE being on sort of the forefront, why don't professional boxers wear headgear?
Because that makes it unsafe.
Okay, it does. See, again, I'm an idiot. I don't know that.
Amateur boxing until the 1984 Olympics. If you watch the 76 Olympics with Sugar Ray Leonard, there's no headgear. Until 1984 with the Holyfield Pernell Whitaker team, they wore headgear. The thing about the headgear is when you wear headgear, you have a tendency to, at least subconsciously, not defend yourself as well. If you know what I'm saying.
Well, I understand your concept.
So what they found was, because I think amateur boxing is going back to no headgear because of that. Because when you look like 1984 to 1992, as opposed to 1976 to 1984, there was actually less head injuries in boxing without it. So there was actually studies. That's one of the reasons they are going towards going back without it. But when you feel safe, you get a false sense of security.
Right.
And the thing is, it's boxing. So the thing about boxing is you don't play boxing. And what I mean by that is you just don't play boxing. When you get into boxing, you know that you can die if you lose. I mean, I've sat and watched probably 10 fights in my life where the person that lost his life in the ring, and I watched it.
All right, that's fair. I just wanted, like I said, I didn't have an answer. I didn't have a rebuttal. I just wanted to know why.
Well, see, this is the thing. The thing about boxers is this. Boxers have always known that what they were doing was life-threatening. They didn't have a bunch of rich owners telling them, no, it's safe. We've checked. Trust us. There was no false sense of security what you got as a football player in the 70s. He got his bell rung. Give him some smelling salts, he'll be fine. But all right. Anything
All
else?
right.
Well,
That's good answer, Mike. Thank you for that. I mean, I guess it's a history lesson to me, not something I want to challenge you on. I just wanted to kind of understand a little better. Anything else, Bobby, today?
Well, just my only comment on that, not to drag it on, but my thoughts on that were that, and this is nothing revolutionary, that I'm going to say, but athletes today have to deal with, the rule changes and the equipment changes and the things to make it safer for them. It's dictated on them that it's a softer brand of game that they're playing, whatever sport it is. And we still got some pretty tough damn guys out there right now that, would have fit really well in the 70s and 60s. And, it's just that they're
if these guys would have been born back there and raised back then, there's no doubt they'd have been fine. You can't tell me Tom Brady couldn't have played in 1975.
No doubt about it.
Tom Brady would have been Tom Brady in 1975. He'd have been fine, yeah.
Yeah, just like Joe Montana
Tom Brady's always
would be
going to be
Joe
Tom Brady.
Montana today. I mean,
right. Yeah, those guys aren't
greats are
going anywhere.
greats. You dig Babe Ruth up, he'll still hit a home run.
Yeah.
Maybe not if you
No
dig
doubt
him.
about
Ricky Fowler is still Ricky Fowler. What a great win for him in Phoenix this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great
awesome.
win. And
I
Steve,
was excited.
can we talk a little bit about the Pro-Am the next couple days? I'll get my
That's the
ducks in a row.
funnest week in golf. I mean, I would give my left nut to be able to one time go do that. I mean, you got to be a bazillionaire or a big-time celebrity, neither of which am I.
We're working on it, Steve. We're working on it.
We're working on it. I know. We'll get there by the time I die. But I would think that there was no funner 3 days, because I've played Pebble Beach numerous times, and it is a joyous experience to go to Pebble Beach,
Was that the one
be
that
on
was 2 weeks
17-mile
ago?
drive. No, it's this week in
this
San.
week?
It's up in
Okay.
Carmel.
I was going to say, we
It's
had the
the
one
Monterey
dude that
Peninsula.
went to we had Graham McGowan, who does our baseball show, who went to Pro-Am 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
That was
he-
probably the Palm Desert. That was probably Palm Desert.
Yeah. All right.
That was the old Bob
Well,
Hope Club. But no, what's your question, Bobby, about this weekend? 'Cause, I mean, this is what golf's all about.
I want to set it up. I want to come in and either, I guess Thursday would be the best day because that's when the tournament starts. I'll have some odds prepared, maybe tomorrow, and we'll talk a little bit about the tournament. And I want to bring golf each week, have a 10-minute segment, where we talk about it from an odds perspective as well and get your insight because you're the golf guy on the show. And let's set that up and do that tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and here's the thing: the whole deal with the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. And I got another question for you, Bobby, before we hang up.
Sure.
The Pebble Beach, it's unpredictable because it's such a unique event on tour, kind of like Phoenix is a little bit with the 16th hole. With the circus atmosphere. Pebble Beach is
Right.
one that's really devoted more to the Pro-Am part of the tournament because the Pro-Am teams will play to the entire tournament. You'll actually see on Sunday if the leader and his Pro-Am partner are playing, they'll be like Steve Risley playing with Dustin Johnson. I mean, or Dennis Johnson or Dustin Johnson. I'll be in that foursome with him, or somebody will be. Whoever's leading, his Pro-Am partner will most likely be with him. And he's in the mix now playing with 3 tour professionals who are trying to win $1.6 million. And he's an amateur, and he's just trying to get out of people's way. But he's trying to win the tournament too, because to win that thing is, there's a guy like Jack Lemmon, the famous actor, who did it for 40 years and never made the cut. I mean, there was always the big thing until he finally passed away that he never made the cut in the Pro-Am, or he maybe made it 1 year or something, but it was always, is Lemon going to make the cut? And he loved that event so dearly that to predict the winner in this tournament, I don't envy you, because I don't think the most skilled players are going to win this thing. It's one that is the most gregarious, gets along with other people, can handle the camaraderie. I remember Scott Simpson used to always play with Bill Murray, and Murray was just the clown. I mean, it's like, how in the world could Scott Simpson shoot 75 or 72 when you got Bill Murray, kissing fans in the stands, diving into bunkers, being Bill Murray, which is what he does best. So it's a very difficult weekend for you. And my advice, stay away from it, because I don't know that you can predict the winner. in this tournament.
Right.
I mean, because it's not a normal factor of Schauffele playing hot, Tiger on the move, Phil hitting fairways. It all goes out of play at Pebble, and the weather comes into play. It's raining in California. You live in California. You're 30 miles from me. It's raining out here now. It's raining in San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's cold. We had a high of 55 today, maybe, which is unseasonably chilly for this time of year in LA. It's going to be chillier up in Pebble. Weather's going to play a factor up there. I don't know that I could even say that it was a smart bet. It's just go with your gut.
I think what you do is you don't bet very much, and you take some odds.
No, you don't. You do it for fun. You don't do it to make money.
Yeah, you do it for fun, and you don't want to take a favorite. You want to take something with higher odds. And Dustin Johnson came out at 5-1, and that's really, really low. And so you automatically stay away from that. And
yeah, well, Pebble in itself is not a very hard course to play. I mean, it's basically a public golf course.
Right.
For all intent, it's an expensive public golf course. I mean, you don't have to be a member there to play there. You want to put your $550 down and get your caddy. You can go play, and I've played it multiple times, and it has a couple of challenging holes. 8 and 9 and 10, or 7, 8, 9, and 10 are great golf holes. Other than that, it's pretty much a mundane public golf course. 18 is obviously beautiful because it's on, on the bay out there. I can't think of what's the name. Stillwater Cove. It's on Stillwater Cove. But it's a mundane golf course to play. It's not anything as spectacular as some of the other great golf courses in the world. But it's Pebble. I mean, it's Pebble Beach.
Right.
17-mile drive. You can't get on the property. You can't get there during that week. Actually, a funny story. In 2000, I had the privilege of being a runner for the Golf Channel, and when Tiger won his U.S. Open there in 2000, and I actually went to Kinko's because we only had one parking pass for the Golf Channel. So I said, "Give me the damn thing." So I went to Kinko's. And before they put holograms on them, I copied about 10. I went to Kinko's and made two-sided copies and manufactured 10 parking passes and gave them to all the producers and stuff like that. And they were scared to death. I mean, they wanted to get rid of me immediately, like, oh, my God. But they all took them. And you know what? We all parked in the VIP lot right there.
I guess that was a product of your IU graduate.
It's like, May, your future. B, your future. I didn't want to take the media bus from the hotel in Monterey, the Best Western. I didn't want to take the media bus in with all the other idiots who were taking the media bus. So I had my own rental car. Like, no, I want to go park in the VIP lot where my golf cart is waiting for me because I'm a runner for the Golf Channel. So I have my own golf cart. And I said, so I just went to Kinko's. I said, give me the damn thing. I took off and left, went up to Monterey, found a Kinko's, made 10 copies, brought them back, and they all looked at me like with white face, like they were scared to death. But then they all used them. And like, okay, so we all parked at the VIP lot for the entire week. That's my story. I think I'm past statute of limitations now. I think they can't be in trouble for that. I think the next year, though, they did go to holograms on the parking passes, as Brian Hammonds told me. So there you go.
All right, guys. After that riveting story, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up for today.
Oh, wait. I had one more thing. Can I say one more thing?
As long as it's not about golf, go ahead.
It's not about golf. Bobby, if you'd like to join us free of charge, a good partner of mine and I are going to start a NASCAR show. We're going to start a weekly show, and we're going to do a post-game wrap-up. We don't need you on a post-game, but if you would like to come on and give a free, pick of the NASCAR week, you want to do that and kind of come on for 5 minutes at the end of the show. And no charge. I mean, I'm not going to charge you to do it. Just come on and give us a NASCAR pick and say who you think is going to win the race. You handicap the race. You say who's hot, who's not, and we'll let you announce somebody to bet on Wednesday nights. Alex Gray is the guy that I'm going to work with.
Okay.
And just come on and say, Chase Elliott's hot. This is Chase Elliott's race to win.
So we couldn't have done that off air. All right.
I'd love to do that, Steve. Sounds great.
Mike, I wanted to announce that publicly so we know that it's going to be part of our program.
You probably should have asked him, get him to say yes, and then just publicly announce it. But it's kind of like asking a woman to marry you in front of 60,000 people. She's probably going to say yes, but it doesn't mean she'll walk down the aisle. All right, guys, remember, you can follow Bobby
I'm walking
Sheridan.
down the aisle.
There you go. You can follow Bobby Sheridan at the Sheridan Report. You can follow Steve Risley at srisley34. You can follow The Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. Tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern on The Grueling Truth, we will have our daily boxing show start with myself, Jeremiah Pricer. I would ask Bobby to be on, but it doesn't sound like he handicaps boxing. So if you ever decide to start, though, we got a spot for you, Bobby.
Appreciate that, Mike.
All right. So we are going to go ahead and wrap the show up. I want to remind you can hear everything on iHeart, iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Brian Rauf, Bobby Sheridan, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.